Hello, Lockdown Diaries, day 45, and this is just the second part of the America trip that we talked about the other day. So the first part was the original stretch, which is for us was starting in New York and then working west, southwesterly down the Blue Ridge Parkway, then Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, out through Texas to Roswell, which is where we finished yesterday. I broke it into two parts just because it's I guess I've got loads of footage and I end up talking too much, so I thought two parts is better than one. Today I just want to talk about this second part, which in a way is a shorter section, certainly in terms of mileage, although I think once you've started wiggling around it probably adds up to the same. But in terms of duration, if we look at that route, say you've got 4 weeks to go from New York to Los Angeles, I think I planned it so we were there in Roswell on about the 12th night or so, which left us 2.5 weeks to do this section, and that's simply because there is so much to see in this four corner areas. It's called Four Corners because that's essentially where the four states meet. You've got Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah, and they all meet at that point there where there is a sort of a museum, visitors center, and a star, sort of a plaque on the floor, which marks the point at which the four states meet. The only place in America where that happens. So if we kick back to Roswell, we're in New Mexico. It's been flat all the way across Texas, pretty much. Now here is the foot of the Rockies. The Rockies are the mountain range that run north to south, pretty much just side of this main road here. So all this section here is the Rockies, which start to taper out as you come down into New Mexico. So essentially, you're going over the lower lands of the Rockies. But I really like New Mexico. I think it's got a really earthy charm. It's quite a poor state by comparison to some of the others. It's got just a different way of life. Lots of empty stretches where you'll see sort of semi-abandoned buildings and homes and places that have got loads of abandoned cars outside. It's sort of it's still got a frontier feel to it. I think New Mexico, friendly people, some good food. Obviously, a Mexican influence down there. And I enjoy it a lot in New Mexico. I just like its atmosphere, and so for me, it's an essential or an enjoyable part of a coast-to-coast America trip, which is why I come in this way. So from Roswell, you can go west a little bit. There's some good riding here. I believe I've never done it. There's a Billy the Kid Highway that runs west from here. Simon and Siobhan, they did shoot off west. They knew of a place that did live music that they wanted to stay at, so they went out that way. But with time, sort of with a slight time constraint, the majority of the group, we went on the 285 up to Santa Fe. So when I say the group, I mean 12 of us who had shipped the bikes in from England into New York on a plane, and then we're boating back out of LA. Albuquerque is famous for being home of Breaking Bad. So that area around there is kind of the same as what you'd see in Breaking Bad, I guess, desert and sort of open land. Albuquerque itself, it seemed okay, not a huge amount of merit there worth going into, apart from the fact you can go and see Walter White's house and have your photo parked outside. The owner, a lady seems to sit in a deck chair in the entrance to her garage all day long and just sort of instructs and welcomes visitors. She doesn't allow them to stand directly in front of the house, but across the road, which still gives you a chance to get a photo if that's your thing. There is a little road to the west of Albuquerque called the Turquoise Trail, which runs all the way up here through Madrid and then takes you up to Santa Fe. That's a nice little jaunt, kind of scenic, rolling hills, nice little towns along the way, or small towns. And then you spot all these little roads here. And there's so many roads I've not done in America. I mean, I've only scratched the surface, and I was just looking earlier and saw this little road here. And this is kind of how I do my planning with all of these trips, really. I'll just look and zoom in and faff around on Google. I'll drop a man, see what the roads are like. Okay, so what's it going to be? Oh, a bit of tarmac. That looks pretty nice and scenic. How does it change? Does it go to dirt or is it all tarmac? I'll just click along, move it along a bit. Yeah, that looks nice and quiet. And that's what I'll do. I'll do that until I've got a picture, really, of the different roads and different options that are out there. And then I'll start piecing it together based around the accommodation stops or the places of interest that I want to hit. and it's a simple case of that. But by not putting designated camp spots or accommodation stops in every night, it allows some flexibility to spot these roads as you go and alter the route accordingly. And that's when I think it becomes an adventure rather than just a pre-designated holiday. And that's the sort of side of the coin I like to fall upon. So Turquoise Trail up to Santa Fe. Santa Fe has got sort of ancient history as being, I think, home of the Pueblo Native Indians or Native Americans. So it's got the old sort of Fred Flintstone style houses there. It is kind of a very popular affluent tourist destination. So prices are high. It's kind of got that coach loader, saga pensioner type holiday vibe to it, and I don't say that as really to discredit it, just to say that's the type of tourist that it appeals to. Although we enjoy it as well, and we enjoyed it, and there's lots of crafts markets on, and you can buy rugs and things like that, although they are cheaper if you buy them from stalls outside of Santa Fe. It's kind of got a little, I guess, a hipster vibe to it as well, Santa Fe. I think a day there's plenty, personally. We stay generally just on a campsite just southeast of that on Old Route 66, which I believe is that one there. It says 67, but I'm sure 66. Wait a minute, 66, okay, it's that one there. Old Las Vegas Highway 66, and there's a campsite just along there, and that's where we would stay. And it's pretty decent, not too expensive, and it's 10 minutes into town, and that's it. New Mexico has got another good place, Taos, which is just up here. That's a little bit more laid back, relaxed vibe, a lot of skiing around there, so it's kind of got a quirky edge to it. Quite nice, Taos. It's still got sort of its, it still feels authentic, more authentic than Santa Fe, which is probably why I preferred it. It's just an interesting place, and the riding between there and Taos is very good and open, and you go over the big bridge over the river, which is just somewhere there, a huge bridge, and it goes over the Rio Grande River. So lots of points of interest. And for me, what I've learned is going out west, you hit Los Alamos, and that's where they designed and built the nuclear bomb that was dropped in World War II. So it's a very odd little place, actually. You climb up the mountain road to get there, and it's on a plateau at the top. And compared to the rest of New Mexico, it's very affluent, very ordered, very neat, tidy, very official looking and feeling place, obviously where lots of scientists and people of that disposition work, live, and do their recreation. So it's a very different place. Got kind of an eerie feel to it, I guess, because they're still beavering away on nuclear technology. They have a nuclear museum there, which is quite celebratory of the bomb and everything else that comes with nuclear power. So I guess, you know, depending on how you see the world, you'll either like that place or like that museum or not. But it's certainly worth passing through just for the atmosphere of it, really, and the connection with world history, because it's certainly obviously had a very important part to play. And we came out west when we did this one, and so you go out, there's a military checkpoint just on the outside that tells you not to stop and take photos on this road. And then this road just goes out west, and it just winds, good tarmac through valleys, trees, forests, and then there was some dirt somewhere along it. I'm sure we hit dirt sort of out in this region, and that makes life interesting. There we go. So there's all this kind of road, which, yeah, even for a novice rider, is perfectly manageable. We had people on bikes, on adventure style bikes that had never done any dirt road or any dirt road riding, or not a lot of it, but they were more than capable of riding this road, taking it steady, riding it at your own pace, and it's well graded, and it gives a real sense of adventure. And if you start zooming in and finding these kind of roads, there's lots of them throughout America, all over, and they really do add a bit of interest, intrigue, and adventure into the mix. You know, they make you feel like you've been on a bit of a quest through the wilderness. And through Google Maps, that's how I'd find places like that. You eventually come out of Cuba, and the group split off. A few went west to get some motel accommodation, and me, Simon, Siobhan on the Africa Twin, and Maria and Adrian on the GS1200. We sort of headed up towards Charmer, which is a nice little quaint town. Touristy again, but really cute and pleasant place to stay. We stayed in a bar that got some rooms above it, so kind of cheap price, and then just a local bar underneath with good beer and good food, and that's what we did that night. But en route, we turned off. We went off exploring, and we ended up going on this dirt road through this wood. And people ask where you can camp. Well, a lot of this is state forest, and if it says state forest or national forest, you can camp in there. And you simply drive down the access road, forest on both sides, and then you just pull off and park up wherever and set up tent. And a lot of families with RVs and things like that would do that and seem to set up for multiple days and just enjoy being out there, I guess, in the forests with the family. So we did that. We got a bit lost, and we didn't know, we weren't sure where we were going, to be honest. And even looking at this map, I'm not entirely sure where we went. And we got to dirt roads, and it got deeper, and they were riding two up, so we weren't entirely sure how it was going to end up. But we persevered, and we ended up in Charmer. It poured it down that night, as Colorado seems to have a bit of a discrepancy with its weather, good and bad, good and bad. But even now, I'm just looking at that road there. Look at that, dulce, dulce. And this is what I'd be doing if I was planning this route again or looking to improve it. I'd say, can I drop a pin on that? And I'm always, it's a shame you can't drop a pin, because then that will give an indication. But I bet that's a perfectly serviceable road through there. It's just whether you tackle it with a group. That's the thing. Or depending on what bite you are, what confidence level you've got. But this is, I think, is where you can really explore with America. So many of those little cut throughs. You could cut a nice corner off through there if you wanted, or double back, do whatever you want. But there's lots of options. That's the main thing. Pagosa Springs, and then you just got easy riding as you come into Colorado. It's just good. There's enough gas stations, enough little places to stop and get food, and little eateries on the way. And then you eventually come into Durango, which is a real hot spot in this area. It's got a wild westish Colorado hills feel to it. Kind of, I'm not going to say mounty country, but I'm just trying to think sort of the Western films when you see the guys riding into the wooded towns, and it's winter and it's snow on the ground. It's kind of got that feel to it. The mountains of Colorado are all here through the Rockies, and they used to do a lot of mining in this region, 100 years ago or so. So it's got all the remnants and the architecture and the artifacts of that sort of lifestyle, that frontier lifestyle. Excuse me. And north of Durango, obviously, if you're in a rush, you go west of Durango straight out to Cortez, and then you'd aim for Monument Valley and Grand Canyon, and then out to Vegas, and that's a perfectly good route. Alternatively, as we had allocated the time, north of Durango is the $1 Million Highway, which is a famous road. The name came from either the fact that it was $1 million to build, or it gives views that are worth $1 million. I don't think people can quite decide on where the name came through. Passes through a great little place called Silverton, which is still a dirt street town with an old train there, a steam train, and all the old wooden buildings and houses, and that's got a really nice feel to it. Again, lots of tourists there, but it's really pleasant, really nice, worthwhile place to aim for, as is Ouray, which is a bit to the north of there. If anybody's wondering, the Transamerica Trail comes all the way through here. It passes through Silverton and it heads out west. So you've got all the famous passes such as California Pass that run through here, aimed to Lake City. And these are the roads I did on the Postie bike, which was other than lack of power on the Posties, was perfectly manageable on all these roads. So yeah, that's sort of the way I came in. I don't think I'd do it on a fully laden GS, but on the Himalayan or something, yeah, I would tackle Cinnamon Pass quite easy, I suppose. You follow the $1 Million Highway, you could carry on to Montrose, carry on up to I guess up to Utah and things, but we headed west to what is probably the best accommodation stop we could find, and I did find, and that was a 3-step hideaway, which was just recommended on advrider.com, a Facebook group. And yeah, it's just a spectacular outback sounds Australian, but it's outback America, Wild West frontier little community that a bloke and his wife, I forget the names, have built. A little ranch, I guess it is, with lodges and a campsite, and he cooks food on site. So it can't cater for many people, but it really is in the middle of nowhere, and it's probably the most spectacular place I've ever stopped. It is also on the Transamerica Trail, so the Transamerica Trail goes all the way across, and he sells himself to motorcyclists completing the Transamerica Trail. But all this road through Colorado is really nice. It's just mountainous, empty, serpentine roads, brilliant vistas, views, nobody else around for miles and miles. It really does feel like the land that time forgot out there. There's farmsteads and homesteads and little conurbations, few villages, but not a lot at all. So if you wanted to get off the beaten track, then I would certainly recommend this. And you know, again, I've just seen this little road here. You know, you see that. How fabulous would that be to drop there? I can't drop a pin on that one either. So this is where you would get off the road and start exploring, seeing what that road's like. But I imagine that's a dirt road that runs through some incredible views. Oh, it's a real shame. Damn you, Google Cars, for not getting down that road. So yeah, three-step hideaway, fantastic. Moab is just to the north. To get to Moab, we took there's a dirt road that you come up onto this main road, you ride along, and then you go up through the forest. It's one of these turns here, and it comes all the way over. So you're dropping over the top into Moab and looking out across Canyonlands and Arches National Park. So incredible views across these excellent national parks. I think if you build a trip around seeing national parks and stopping at national parks, then I don't think you can go wrong with America, because each one's different, each one's unique, each one's got its own flavour and own views. Didn't actually go into Arches, I don't think, actually, after all that, but I did spend the day going into Canyonlands National Park. I found some just little trails and investigated them. The Himalayan was perfect. Somebody's asked me, would I do it again on a Himalayan? And in a way, as kind of slow as it might be on the interstate, and it does run out of puff at high altitude, when you're wanting to explore these lanes that you don't know the difficulty of, these dirt roads, I think it's a perfect bike. Any bike that's less than 200 kilos is perfect. Yes, you probably will get a bigger GS12 up there, but if you're on your own and you're exploring, is that size of bike the right one? For me, something like the Himalayan, or maybe a 500X Honda or something like that, you would do those trails and not feel intimidated. So Shaffer Rim Trail, which is the most spectacular bonkers trail I've been on. You know, you see these big drop passes of India and Argentina and places, but I think this compares just as well. An incredible riding. You do a sort of a 60 or 70 mile dirt road loop, so you're on dirt for 3 hours at a time, and it's just great riding. Kind of tricky in parts, you know, you got to be careful. It can catch you out. I think I had a bit of a wobble on the Himalayan as you sort of come down a drop step that you don't see, and then you all of a sudden you're nose diving down into the dirt. But yeah, it's just, you know, how long do you need in Moab to fully explore it? Forever, I think, just because the riding is so good. You could go north from here, and one rider did. They ended up to Bonneville Salt Flats, which was a long day's ride north and a long day's ride south. They said it was worth it, but you know, I wouldn't take a group on such a mission to see something that was so far away just to say you'd seen it and then come back. Obviously, if you've got an individual mission to see something like that, then go for it, no problem. But you could go across to up and drop down Hanksville, and then come down this way. You know, you can take the little Bullfrog ferry across Lake Powell here, which is really kind of crazy through there. Lots of houseboats on that stretch there. Lake Powell is receding; the water level is going down, and that's interesting to see that transformation and the concerns there about water levels throughout this region as the demand for water increases and the supply reduces. And so there's some big issues to face, I think, as time goes forward, as to where the water gets distributed, how it gets distributed, and I don't know. Yeah, future problems, I guess. But for now, motorcycling. So instead of going that way, we came back down, back down through Monticello, Blanding, and then we turned off there. We did national monuments, national bridges, national monument, national park, which is a loop road. Kind of worth doing, not incredible, but pretty good. And yeah, that's the road there that takes you out to Bullfrog. But we drop down, and this is the world famous Moki Dugway, which is probably one of my favourite stretches. You come along here, you're riding this road, you think you're kind of at sea level, or you could be at sea level, and then you get to this bit here, zooming on that. Look at that. You come to this point here, and apparently this is a great lookout if you want a really good wild camping spot just along there. Drop down there somewhere. I've not done it myself, but apparently it's spectacular. But essentially, yes, you come to this point here, and then from here you're looking down on this incredible valley, and the cliff that you're sat at the top of is like the top of being at the top of a huge wave, and then it rolls down to the valley, and out America spreads beneath it. You got Mexican Hat down there, and you know, you're entering real desert territory with the cool, interesting rock formations. So you ride down Moki Dugway, which is compact dirt, so manageable. At the bottom, one option is do Valley of the Gods, which is a 20-mile recreational road. All dirt again, can be a bit sandy where you go through the dried up riverbeds, but it is well worth doing. You might struggle in a rental car, but on a bike you will get through. And yeah, it's scenery to die for, and it's all Bureau of Land Management, which you can legally wild camp on there without any hindrance. So as long as you're self-sufficient, you take your food, water in there. Yeah, you've got the whole world to yourself out there. That would be like camping in the middle of a Western film when they were when the settlers were heading west. It would be so cool to do it. And next time we do this trip, I think that's what I'm going to plan on doing. The difficulty is though, there's so much good stuff to do. So you drop down, you do Mexican Hat, which is a boulder balanced upon the top of a plinth, which makes it look like a hat. And then you come down here, and then you've got Forest Gump Road here. You know, this is the iconic stretch of road. Is this a bit here? Yeah. Let's get on the road. Somewhere there. Yeah, so that's where Forest Gump stops running, and everyone pulls up and takes a photo. And that road is just iconic, and I think, you know, everyone's just blown away when they get there. It means so much to be in the moment which you recognise from a film, and you're there, and I think that's when it brings it into reality, and it certainly did me when I did the Postie Bike trip. Actually, while we're just doing that, let me show you, so you can see the top of Moki Dugway, although I think I must have put some videos up to show you by now, but yeah, it's just incredible. Oh, wow, look, imagine doing it in the snow on a bike. Gee, look at that. Oh yeah, maybe not in the snow. Not for me anyway. So we zoom out. We're heading for Monument Valley now. Monument Valley is one of my favourite places in America. Just here, it's in the Navajo Nation, which for anyone who's not aware is almost like an autonomous region within America, a huge area which has got its own government, laws, police force, hospitals, and it effectively self-governs itself, run by the Navajo Nation Council, I believe. And so it's a different type of America through there, different experience, but yeah, you shouldn't, obviously no problems. You do notice a lot of broken bottles through that region. It's you know, hugely interesting story to see how a lot of the communities are alcohol free, but obviously there is alcohol being consumed outside the communities, and then you'll see discarded bottles and things around. So it's, yeah, it's, look, it's an insight into America, or a certain part of America, and I think it's well worth seeing. But Monument Valley itself, spectacular. They are sort of overdeveloping a little bit. There's a new hotel there, but there's also a new campsite that they've set up, which is a very rustic campsite just in the sandy embankments overlooking the Three Mittens, which for $18 a night, I don't think you can get a view any better in the morning than what you wake up to when you stay on that campsite. So that was a real highlight, and I'm really glad we stumbled across that campsite, because actually I didn't know it was there or in existence until we got near to it, and we were able to get some spots. But yeah, probably the favorite, well, easily the most favorite camp spot of America. We turned up to Page. Page is a town that was formed during the building of the dam across Lake Powell. There's a dam just here, and the workers needed somewhere to stay, so they formed Page, and there's now a big coal-fired power station just on the outside. Also, the best barbecue, Texas barbecue place in America, I thought anyway, in the centre of Page, on a crossroads. I don't remember the name, but if you Google barbecue smokehouse Page, it'll come up. But yeah, some great food in America. Lake Powell, all through here, you know, there's campsites all around Lake Powell. You can take pleasure boat rides on Lake Powell, jet skis on Lake Powell. And yeah, then you head north into what Arizona. Are we in Arizona? Oh, even I get confused now. Are we in Arizona? Utah, sorry. So Utah has got some incredible riding as well. You've got all the national parks, Bryce Canyon, which is all the multicolored sort of formations that rise out from the ground. It's very sci-fi looking environment, and well worth making the trip up to Bryce. You've got Zion there as well, which has got some epic climbs in there, and just a great road that runs down into Zion, and nice camping in the base of Zion. I'd certainly recommend that little quadrant of places. And Route 12, which is a route that a few of us rode up just to see sunset midway through, just around Boulder, and it's an incredibly scenic road, twisty, windy, roller coaster road, well surfaced, well sighted. So you can ride it a little bit spirited, but then it's got the most amazing views as you go along, and the most incredible sunset. So another memorable night when we watched the sunset over the rocks, and then at about an hour or so's ride back to where we were camping at Bryce. And yeah, good memories. Cold up there because it's at high altitude, and then from there you can drop down straight down to Las Vegas on the interstate, or which is far better, is to drop back down on the 89A. From Fredonia, and this is another great iconic road that I think that it's got just seminal views of valleys and things around there, and it can take you down to the north rim of Grand Canyon, which is the quieter of the two, of the north and the south rim. The north is the quieter one because it's less accessible, and then if you work your way around, you kind of join in back on yourself and head south, and then you take a left off here, and that goes on to the north rim. North rim there. North Rim's a bit busier, more facilities built there. It's a bit like Center Parcs, really, with Grand Canyon as the view. But this road is it's an incredible road to ride, as there'll be trees on to the side of you, both sides of you, and then suddenly the trees will clear, and then it just reveals Grand Canyon just in its most incredible scale that you've ever seen. Like Grand Canyon, if you've never seen it in the flesh, it's hard to take in the size of it, the width of it, the depth of it, the intricacies of it, of the crops and the formations that rise up from the bottom. It's you could stand there for hours and still not really grasp what you're looking at. It's almost too much to take in. There's some good campsites. One just around here. There's an outcrop there. Desert View Watchtower's got a campsite just there and a shop. So everything you need. Camping on a national park, about $18 to $20, and you can get as many people on a pitch as possible. And as the pitches are designed for RVs, there's generally a lot of space for motorcycle tours and motorcycle and a camp and a tent. Just outside the park, this is all national forest, so you can camp out there for free as well. Head south, and you've got down into Williams, or head this way into Flagstaff, which is a nice town. The difficulty on the postie bike trip was getting from Williams across to Seligman without going on the I-40, and I was pointed by a chap in Williams on that postie bike trip that there is a road that runs north there through sort of a dirt road, an access road, 12A. Just follow that all the way around, and again, it's just by asking local knowledge, asking around what's the way, get in there and ask the right people, and they'll always give you an answer. And that brings you down into Ash Fork and misses out the I-40. So we did that on the garbage run with, I think 4 of us did that route. And then you get onto old Route 66, and this is the longest stretch of untouched, uninterrupted Route 66 in existence, 90 miles or so of it. Seligman is where a barber, a hairdresser, realised that the decay that was going on in the town thanks to the interstate bypassing it, and so he set up a sort of a what would you call it, an organisation to bring tourists to the area, and it's well worth checking out. Just got a nice kitschy vibe to it, a little bit weird. A lot of tourists in the daytime, and then it goes dead at night. And then old Route 66, which just goes up and over, loops up and over, so you can see the interstate route goes south, the old road goes north, and yeah, great stretch. Coming to Kingsman, which has got everything you need. It's got bits and bobs, an old Route 66 museum and some nice diners, but you're not going to stay there too long. Head north, and you can jump off, go to Chloride, which is an old mining town, which has got a sort of the hills have eyes type of weird vibe to it, but again, I love that connection with America's past. America's past and history seems so much more recent than ours, which I guess it is. It's certainly in settler history or European migration history, it is so recent. and so easy to see where it started and where it was in its infancy over 100 or so years ago. So to see chloride and the mining industry as it was, I always find very interesting. Yeah, so maybe I'm a bit nerdish like that, but yeah, I love those old parts of America because they're not that old in a way. Up to Hoover Dam, yeah, worth seeing, and then this back road into Vegas. Stay in Vegas as long as you want. We was there, I think, a night or so, 2 nights maybe. Just to give reference, we got married in Vegas, and I think all up that trip with 2 of us shipping the bike out, riding New York to or Las Vegas to New York was 6,000 for 2, which is not cheap, but we felt that was quite a cheap wedding, really, by comparison to what some friends were spending on a wedding at home. So yeah, it depends what you want. If you want in a motorcycle trip and a wedding, I would certainly advise Vegas because it's quick, easy, and cheap, which doesn't necessarily reflect the quality of your marriage, but certainly allows money to be spent on other things than feeding people that you don't even like. So that was our choice with that, and I think it worked out well. West from Vegas, you have got options. Death Valley for me is a natural trajectory west out to Pahrump, and then you drop down to Shoshone, and then you go left here, and then this is the Valley Road here. Let's show you that. It goes right through the heart of Death Valley, the hottest place in the world, apparently. It's very barren, very desolate, very hot, very dry heat, and then you've got all the salt flats and things along it. And I just have a real good love affair with Death Valley. I just love its starkness, its brutal nature. You can certainly imagine when they first discovered it, the Western pioneers, I bet they wondered what they came upon, and that's where it got its name, Death Valley, because when they saw it for the first time, they said that there would be death in this valley. I think that's where it came from anyway. Could be talking absolute nonsense. We head north and we stayed out this way. And we actually did a dirt road out, where is it, BT. So we stayed in BT one night, nice little towny village thing. We just booked something on Airbnb. And then there is a dirt road here. Oh, brutal this was. Don't know whose idea this was. I think it was mine. You can see that? It is called the Titus Canyon Road. And it was a challenge because it's hot, long, and endless. 25 miles or so, which doesn't seem a lot, but in the middle of the heat, with the kind of riding that it was and the type of bikes we were on and the experience we had, it was a tricky old route, and I was very glad when we got to the end of it. But it's a fantastic stretch. I mean, that's again just scratching the surface. There were so many more roads, better trails, better than this one, and with proper local knowledge, you would find them. But I found that just by googling. And you've also got the old ghost town of Rhyolite, which is another old mining town, old preserved buildings and things. So that's certainly worth seeing. Area 51 is this area around here, so it's all got a bit of UFO weirdness to it. And then essentially you're heading west, You're heading west, out past Death Valley. Then if you're going into LA, you're going to drop down here. This is kind of decent riding through here. I'd avoid Bakersfield, not much there. Then just drop down. We dropped in the back door into Vegas, avoided all the interstate. And then we stayed just back off Santa Monica. We finished at Santa Monica Pier and then just stayed up here. But yeah, you look here. Even LA, you're not far out of LA, and you've got some incredible riding roads there if you've got the time. Or equally, carry on. This next trip, when we were going to do it, this year that's now cancelled, we were going to finish in San Francisco. So I was probably going to take us out west, hit the coast, then up to San Francisco. Or equally, Yosemite. Yosemite's here, then drop back down, and then do the coast up. So sometimes it's very difficult to decide what to cut out, what to add in, and how best to do 2 places that are kind of in different directions, and then finish in San Francisco. But equally, if you've got time, wow, if you could add another week on, go up to up the Route 1 up to Seattle, because this coastal road just good, and it goes up past Astoria where the Goonies was set, so it's all that kind of terrain around there. Fabulous riding, fabulous scenery and way of life. It really is. So that was a trip across America. I think, as I said, you could go back and forth across America multiple times and discover new things every time. That's why I find it so interesting. It suits me because it's a point to point, coast to coast, gives me focus, and then it also allows variability as you go along to find it and explore and to tailor a route to suit you. So I hope this route's been of interest and highlighted some of the points and the places that might be worth visiting or might be worth seeing. And one of the things I always like to stress with America, because I know it's a big commitment financially and time to do a coast to coast. It's a luxury that many people don't have, and I can't say if it wasn't for the job that I have, I would have that luxury either. So if you have only got 2 weeks duration, then what is a good option, I think, is to fly into Vegas, rent a car. Cars are dirt cheap to rent. You could do a road trip in this Four Corners area for not a lot of money for the car, sort of £500–600 for a 2-week rental on a car. Yeah, dirt cheap. We met someone who was in a Ford Focus, and I think it was costing them $20 a day. And then you compare it to, say, a Harley Davidson, which is $250 a day. I mean, it makes no sense, really. But out of Vegas, you can rent Triumphs, Tigers, Yamaha Teneres, Royal Enfields, even Interceptors and Himalayans. They're cheaper. So you'll get something like that for sort of $50 or $60 a day. And then in 2 weeks, you could do a lot of these places that I've just talked about. Head all the way out to sort of New Mexico, Santa Fe, and come up round. I think 2 weeks you could have a nice loop round there. So, okay, so you can't maybe have the time or the money to go coast to coast, but if you can stretch to sort of 2,000, which I don't want to undersell how much 2,000 is in this day and age at the minute, but if you can stretch to that, then it wouldn't be too bad. You'd have a good trip and you'd have amazing experiences. Another option is, if there's a few of you, then rent a motorhome or rent a car, and then you're splitting the cost. And by going with a car or something, or a motorhome, you wouldn't have I guess all you'd have to pay every night was the camping fees. So yeah, there's ways and means of doing America that aren't going to cripple you in the way that you think it might financially. So that's it. Part one was east to west that way through to Roswell, and then the second half from Roswell, windy all the way around the Four Corners area, and then out to Vegas, and then Los Angeles or San Francisco. And then that's when the bike comes back on a boat from Los Angeles or San Francisco, and it goes down through the Panama Canal. And this is why it takes 12 weeks, because it has to come all the way down, wherever the Panama Canal is, somewhere down there. And then the bike sails back on a boat and eventually ends up back in the UK. So you can see why it takes 12 weeks. You can air freight it, but it's just a lot more money. So I hope that's helpful. Hope it's useful. Let's hope we can do some America riding again soon. I've got the Garbage Run America, which is cancelled or postponed from 2020 to 2021, and now it's been postponed again to 2022. One option I was thinking of doing is doing a fly ride group, where I do take a group out, we rent bikes out of Vegas, and we do a 2-week trip around there. So if we're allowed to go at some point, maybe later this year or certainly next year, I will put details up about that. But equally, if you want to go on your own, give us a shout. I'll give you as much information as I can, really. So that's it. Over and out. Cheers. Bye.